Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of then versus now, seeing how a band has changed, evolved, or just honed their sound over time. Today we're actually going to get to listen to something very interesting, and I think tomorrow we're going to listen to something comparatively interesting. We're going to look at Haken today with a track called Snow. It comes off of their very first demo CD titled Enter the Fifth Dimension, and 6 years later would be remade into the song Crystallized from their Restoration EP. So we're going to be able to hear a song that they wrote at the beginning of their career, and then how they remade it, how they decided to update it 6 years later with the experience of having been a band for half of a decade. So let's dive into this. This is off of a demo, dude. It's not even on Spotify. Spotify doesn't usually have demo CDs. So this is interesting. Let's dive into this and see what Haken was doing at the beginning of their career with the track Snow. So this is a very folky 7/4 section with a sort of genty bass line here against the flourishy guitar work. And it goes into an interesting, almost alternative rock 4/4 chorus. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. This pre-chorus sets up the 4/4 of the chorus. Ooh. Nice arpeggiation on the piano over here. It probably wasn't intentional, but the lo-fi production in that chorus feels very staticky, like snow. Also, very Wizards in Winter right here. All right. think this is the most metal I've ever heard Haken. Very Dream Theater. Not just making this more driving, but also increasing the tempo just a little bit. There we go. Taking the 3/4 that we had previously and extending it into this, which is pretty cool because this is an earlier riff, which makes the 3/4 a reduction of it, technically. There's that arpeggio again. I was gonna say, that can't be how it ends. I figure there's gotta be a proper ending here. Rain? Oh, there's more. That descending thirds over there sounded familiar. feel like I've heard that in this key somewhere. What was that guitar sound? I like the ornamentation on that last section. The way that they took that rhythm we had been exploring for minutes there. And always finding new ways to express it. Kind of lost me for a while, but I'm back in it here. Oh. I was expecting like a boom ka to like wrap it up. We had that nice drum fill into kind of nothing. Well, that's an interesting track for a lot of reasons. On the one hand, it is indulgent, progressive, rock metal, kind of dances between both worlds there. That's exactly who I expect Haken to be, and I think it's very cool to see this early version of them, and it's still so much a part of their DNA. It isn't someone or something that they grew into. You can hear how all of the rock and metal influences have come together to form something still at this point, or I should say even at this point, still very Haken. Comparing this to their modern works, yeah. I mean, honestly, if you cleaned up the production in this, you've got a modern Haken song right here. It's really interesting to kind of see how strong their identity was even at the beginning. But on the other side of things, this is very much not a Haken track. It's wildly cool that not only am I seeing this here, but also Monday and Tuesday we checked out Porcupine Tree, and that was another group of songs where you could clearly tell it was the band, even at the beginning to what they've been doing now. It's them. Their DNA has been in there from the beginning, and they have a very similar backbone, but the process of how they create the song has shifted a lot. And that's what I'm seeing here too. This is distinctly a Haken track, but at the same time, it's not like any Haken I've ever heard. And that's, I don't know, I'm a huge fan of seeing this. I think the thing that stands out to me most here isn't necessarily the obvious influences, the Genesis-esque proggy folk stuff in the intro, the verses at the beginning, or the Dream Theater influences seen in the middle of the track, alongside the tempo shifts and harsh transitions between ideas. But it's actually where the band goes that I don't expect. The chorus ends up feeling very mid-2000s alternative rock. Kind of has a Creed thing going on with the chords chosen and the melody that sits above it. I don't think that there is any part of the chorus that immediately makes me think of a song from Creed, but something about the way it all comes together and probably a healthy dose of all that compression in there, for whatever reason, makes me feel like these generic 2000s alternative rock tracks. A lot of radio rock coming out at the time. That's not really a direction I expect Haken to go in, and yet they pull it off with finesse here. We also had harsh vocals, which there's a part of me that feels like y'all have told me Haken did harshes sometime in their career, but I've never heard it. We almost had some blackened death style vocals in here. It's wildly impressive given what I believe this is the same vocalist who's been with Haken all the years, who was on Fauna or Flora. I forget what the name of the title or the name of the album is. I think it was Fauna though. I mean, assuming this is the same person, and listening to how they wrote their melodies at the end with their vocalizations, I'm going to say this is probably the same dude. Just, knowing that maybe still here, just not on display in this track, but certainly later in this person's career, they're going to develop such a powerful voice, such control over pitch and delivery and projection. And yet here they have one of the gnarliest harshes. And the thing is too, is it feels untrained. It doesn't feel like a good harsh, but I think part of that rawness actually makes it gnarlier. And the compression, the low fidelity production on this certainly aids in the gnarliness as well. But regardless, the end result here is a harsh vocal that I would expect from some of the most extreme metal groups, and yet they're in Haken. That entire more metallic section in the bridge actually caught me quite off guard. Not the progressive metal stuff, but more of that legitimate, traditional, quasi-death metal stuff. We had some heavy riffage going on in here, and the guitars reached some Intense sounds. I mean, it's kind of tough to say it's intense with such a lo-fi production on this, but I'd wager if you remixed this, it actually, much like the vocals, come across rather gnarly. It's the heavier parts and ironically the softer parts with that alternative rock stuff that stand out to me the most, the extremes that I don't think I hear in modern Haken anymore. Or at least I should rephrase this, what I haven't heard in Haken. I still have only listened to maybe a dozen tracks from them, and I don't think it covers all of their albums, so there quite possibly could be some songs out there that certainly do focus on more of a lighter, more radio-friendly sound, and certainly into a harsher, more metallic sound. But given my exposure to them, I don't expect those sounds from them, and yet they did both of them rather well here. Very impressed by that. The song is, however, a lot of stuff I dislike about, well, prog metal in general, but also Haken's approach to progressive writing. It is incredibly indulgent. It goes in many directions that, at least on a first time listen, don't make any sense. It's tough to follow along, and they do stick around in some sections much longer than I feel that they should. As I mentioned there at the end, once we got into that blues rock idea with the guitar solo, I said they kind of lost me a bit, but I'm back now. The bridge was very indulgent and very drawn out. I just wasn't clicking with it at all. There were some neat ideas in it, but overall, I wanted to move on to something, and they didn't. They didn't want to move on to anything I was interested in. And so, much like a lot of prog metal, I come at this where I enjoy a lot of individual ideas across this track. I don't know if I enjoyed the song, though. And here's where I kind of want to break some stuff down. I think they start off on a pretty good foot. The progressive folk rock stuff is well done, very Genesis-y. I think they do a great job at bringing in the instrumentation, playing the chords. The melodies are kind of catchy too. And even, I think the third time we came back to this, much later in the track, but we do return to this sound. We even introduced some flute in there, which was very cool. It played alongside the vocals, and we had this nice texture layering going on there. I think it's well done. The chorus, I had a hard time hearing the first time, but eventually my ears adapted to the production style on this. And the second and final time we hit the chorus, I quite enjoyed it. We even introduced a new section within this style of writing where we had the almost call and response. One person sings and then holds a note out, and then we get another vocal alongside it. Sort of call and response, kind of counterpoint in a way. I thought that was a really nice adaptation of this general sound, and I thought the chorus did a good job as well. It feels large, it feels... well, it wants to be epic. I think a remix would sound epic there. The compression doesn't help it. It kind of crunches it down and makes it feel smaller than it should be. But I think compositionally, it's supposed to be this big moment. And I think they pulled that off rather well, too. It really is after this point, when we enter into the bridge and begin to change things up willy-nilly. I mean, honestly, coming out of that second chorus into a more metallic section, and then driving that into more of a death section with some Blackened-esque vocals. This came out of nowhere. I certainly couldn't have expected this, even having heard Haken before. And then pushing from this into more Dream Theater-y bits, and it's just like one idea after another. They're neat ideas. The riffs are sick. The drum work is great. The vocals continue to be impressive for what they're doing. I mean, this is their first album, so to hear the guitars and the drums and the kind of, I can hear the bass sometimes. The compression doesn't help with that. My ears also don't help with that. Terrible for low end sounds. Although that bass kick, dude, that thing punches through somehow. Of all the compression, you can always hear that bass kick. It's kind of impressive, actually. But everybody is still kind of at the top of their game. They still have quite a ways to grow, and they certainly will over the next decade or decade and a half, I guess, of their career. But they're starting off incredibly solid here, and you can hear that throughout this entire piece. But here in the middle, it actually does highlight everyone's skills quite a bit. But it is rapidly jumping between a lot of different ideas, and eventually we kind of hit a point where we feel like the song is beginning to come to, well, the section is becoming to come to a point, a conclusion, but it's not a finale. The song doesn't sound over here. And eventually we bring in this piano work, and it's just nice and gentle. And I thought this was the end of the track. And then it wasn't. And then we had more noodly stuff. And then we had a blues guitar solo, which was pretty cool. But I really felt like the song should have ended there. I'm not going to say that the final 3 or 4 minutes of the song actually really worked for me. But again, I don't think I'm the audience for Haken. Even when we checked out some of their newer stuff, even when we checked out a full album of their newer stuff, I'm not the target audience. It's just a little too indulgent for me and a little too wild. And I find this song to sort of embody both of those ideas really well. It's interesting to hear that this is not who Haken became, but also who they started as. I'd be curious if they ever made an album focused on less progressive writing, shorter tracks, maybe a 30-minute album, 8 songs, 2 to 3 minutes apiece. I'd be interested to hear that. Really condensed down their sound and inject it into a short runtime. I don't think they would have. I'd be interested to see if they did. But at least at the start and at the end, Haken is very clearly who they have always been, and I think that's pretty cool. Larger ideas and themes, though, I don't have any. This song is constantly changing its emotions and chord progressions and even key. It just feels like a big journey to me. It's like jumping between sets in a film. You got this scene, and then there's a smash cut into the next scene, and a smash cut into the next scene, and you don't really get the transition between them. You see someone buy a train ticket, and then they're in a new town. That kind of idea. We know what happened in between. You don't need to show it, but we have a jump of location. That's sort of what happens here, and that's the way that I generally explain these types of transitions anyways. It's not like this is particular to this song, but it does make it feel like a journey, much like a lot of prog metal tends to for me. Let me hit some lyrics on this one and see what's up. It seems that this song is about winter personified and wants to take over the world, maybe. There's a little bit of a hint that maybe it's just winter will stay around for a while. And so we have a protagonist in the story who stops the infinite winter, and then spring comes. And that's how the song ends. It's an interesting topic. I don't think that the lyrics are, I don't think the story's well done, but I like the poetry in it. I'm more engaged with the stanza by stanza idea rather than the concept as a whole, which ironically is exactly how I feel about the music. Individual moments are fine, but it just never really comes together into something that grabs my attention. Mentions at the beginning that his mind opens wide and he awakes. He senses a shift in the air, and hope fills his soul. He feels the chill of winter. Says that there's frozen tears. It's an echo of a long lost memory. It's the gift of winter's dance. I align with this. When I feel the air begin to chill around late autumn, early winter, I was going to say early December, because honestly, down here in Florida, we only have a couple of weeks of winter, and it's, mid-December to mid-January. It's about it. It gets hot again right back in February, and it's even into the 80s and 90s here coming into October and November. So yeah, when I start to get the winter chill start to touch my skin, I get excited. Much like this guy, it's the gift of winter. It's when things finally chill out a little bit. Pun intended. It says, dancing alone, I celebrate on the cascades of white exhilaration, breath dissipating into mist, but that fingers of ice creep onto him. I feel the chill sneak into me. Someone's calling. The angels are falling. Come to me, mortal, feel the wrath of winter, hear me, set me free, spread my misery. This is winter, personified here, some sort of, I don't know, winter lich? Although I think liches deal with the undead, so maybe, I don't know, a wizard, winter wizard, wizards in winter, maybe. This is terrible. I'm so full of bad puns today. Anyways, this wizard goes on a monologue, spreading misery for all eternity, feeling my rage and my anger, and yada, yada, yada. The protagonist catches on and says, your curse won't pass as long as I stand. The sun must be unleashed. Rays of golden light, praise! The new beginning has arrived. Seeds of nature grow, and it goes through all this stuff describing spring. Then it says we dance and we sing, celebrating the end of winter. La 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 la, ooh. These are all the folky vocalizations going on and towards the middle of the track. It talks about wines overflowing with wine overflowing from barrels from the vineyards. They're drunk with delight and they continue to dance. The curse has passed and the seasons flow as they should. Time has been restored. It's a story. I feel like from a narrative perspective, it skips over the good stuff and rushes through that, and it hangs on to the stuff that I don't think is as important. But when I think back to the song, the vocals take up such a small part of it. So I think if they wanted to get deeper into this tale, the song probably would have had to become even longer given the speed that they want to deliver the tale. And honestly, 13 minutes was a bit too long for me as it was. So I'm kind of happy with the way it is. How much of this fits with the music? I don't know. I think that the metal part was the winter voice there. I think that kind of worked well. Kind of getting more darker and metallic to represent this incoming curse. And then the rain, all that energy coming down to a lower point, having the rain coming in and then moving into something a bit brighter. Yeah, I mean, that generally works to represent the end of something, especially if something cold like winter and bringing back life of spring. I think it generally works well at telling the story, even if it's a bit more disjointed than I would have liked. But these are just my thoughts on Haken's Snow. What did you think of this? Did you enjoy it? Is there anything that stood out to you? Do you have a different take on this than I did? What's your opinion of this track? Put any of that and anything else you'd like to add into the comment section below. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. We're going to check out Crystallized, which is what this song was eventually adapted to 6 years later. If you enjoyed this, you might want to drop by tomorrow and check that out. Above the comment section in the description box is a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll see you all tomorrow, though. Like I said, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.